introductory video on algorithmic trading with Zorro Trader. Algorithmic trading is the practice of designing and implementing automated trading strategies by using appropriate software and, of course, computers. Zorro Trader is a platform that is extremely useful for this purpose, and it is faster and better than anything else I've seen out there that is available to retail traders like us. Well, as you know, Thinkorswim or many other manual trading platforms do have scripting languages, and you can do some backtesting and even some trading to a certain extent, but they are not fast enough. I mean, if you ever tried more than a simple strategy on a couple of stocks, you'll find that the speed is just not there, right? Zorro Trader is a platform that uses Light C as its programming language and not some esoteric script. Light C being some sort of a superset of the C programming language, which includes numerous functions and other features that are related to trading. Since it is C, Light C is very, very fast. So things that would take hours or days in Thinkorswim, for example, like a long backtest on like 40 stocks, right, will only take seconds or minutes in Zorro Trader. The files that are required for this project and more information are available at www.algorithmictrading.ml. Please note it's ML like in machine learning and not .com or something else. Okay, so a simple trading strategy, right? Well, I heard about the golden cross strategy, and I googled it, and I found this article in the technical analysis section on Investopedia. And the strategy is clearly defined here and described, and Investopedia is a very reliable source of information. But still, one has to ask the question before trading this strategy, right? Does it work? Does it really work? And if it does work, how well does it work? How much risk, right? Does it work on all assets or only on some assets? Does it only work on the foreign exchange pairs, or does it work on stocks and bonds as well, etc., 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 right? So while we believe that Investopedia may be right and this may be a very profitable trading strategy, right, we would like to test it and find out on our own. And that is very, very easy to do in Zorro Trader. So this strategy can be programmed in just a few lines of code. Now, what exactly is the golden cross? What exactly is its opposite, the death cross, which is also described here, right? Well, I encourage you to read the whole article on Investopedia, but I'll give it to you in just a few lines of words, not lines of code. So basically, the golden cross is a trading pattern. You have two moving averages, a fast one, the green line here, which in this case is 50 days, and you have a slow moving average, which in this case, the magenta one here, it's 200 days, right? And when the fast moving average crosses above the slow moving average, this is called a golden cross, right? This is a buy signal, an entry signal, right? When this happens, you should go long this asset, which is Apple right now. And as you can see in this picture, after a golden cross happens, more often than not, the price keeps going up. Not in a straight line. It never does that. It goes up and down and up and down, but overall it's an uptrend and the price keeps going up. Now, the opposite of the golden cross is the death cross, which means the fast moving average crosses below the slow moving average. As you can see here, when that happens, usually the price keeps going down, so one should liquidate any long positions and immediately enter a short position. Now, of course, some of you are going to say, well, but this strategy is 100% in the market. That's rarely a good idea. And by the way, we have no stop loss and so on and so forth. Yes, that's true. But the purpose of this video is just to give you an idea of how easily it is to implement a trading strategy in Zorro Trader. Now, to keep this video within a reasonable length, I have already downloaded Zorro here. It's installed already, and I already downloaded the data for the asset that we will try to trade, right? To backtest actually, and the asset is the SPY. It's an exchange traded fund that tracks the S&P 500 index. This is called the SPY, the SPY. Okay, and before anything else, I encourage you to go to our website and www.algorithmictrading.ml and download the data, the historical data that we need here, the daily data for the SPY since its inception. And after you download that file, which is called spy.t6, please paste it in this folder, right, like this. And then also make this file assetfix.csv in the same folder to look like this. You can copy paste from our website www.algorithmictrading.ml. Once you've done that, well, let's fire up Zorro Trader. Here it is. And since the assetsfix.csv file is configured correctly, we can see now here that the asset we are trading is the SPY. Now we're gonna start from scratch. Okay, so we select here. Zorro comes with multiple strategies, etc., etc., but we are going to start from scratch. So we are going to select new script from here, and we are seeing here Notepad++, which is the programming tool, the editor that comes with Zorro. It's a well-known editor amongst programmers. It's very useful. It's a great editor, and it even comes with a template here, but we're not really going to use it. I really want to start you from scratch, so let's delete what we don't need here. All right. So we will keep this run function. You can tell it's a function because it has parentheses after the name, of course, and the word function in front of it, right? So everything in Zorro, when you backtest or live trade, everything happens inside this run function. This is like the main function of any C program, with the major difference that the run function in Zorro gets executed every time when a new data point comes in. What's a new data point? Well, a new data point, it's a new price, right? So it's a new bar, if you will. So it doesn't matter that you're working with 1 minute bars or 1 hour bars or daily bars or weekly or monthly, whatever. Every time a new bar comes in, right, this function gets executed. Now, the first thing we have to tell Zorro is what is the bar period, right? So are we talking about minutes? Are we talking about 5 minutes? Are we talking about hours or days or more? By default, Zorro's bar period is 1 minute, right? And the variable is called, unsurprisingly, bar period. Zorro helps us, right? It gives us a menu where we can select what we wanted to type. So the variable is called bar period, and by default it is 1, right? 1 minute. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to trade the SPY at the closing, the daily closing price, right? So our bar period will be 1,440 minutes, because that is in minutes a full trading day. We don't have to specify a type for this variable because this is an internal variable of Zorro. Zorro already knows what bar period means and what data type to use to store it. Now the next thing we need to do is to define a series of closing prices, right? We just said that we're going to use the daily closing prices of the SPY. So we need to define a variable called let's say close, right, which is going to hold the series of closing prices. Now the type of this variable in Zorro is vars. Vars is actually an array. Actually, it's a pointer to an array, but that's beyond the scope. So we are declaring an array of closing prices here. The type is vars, the name of the variable is close. I capitalize it because Zorro does that by default with its own internal variables. And we just said it's a series, right? So we're going to create it using the series function, right? It's a function, so we need parentheses and of course the semicolon at the end of the statement. So we're building a series of numbers, an array, right? But where are those numbers coming from? Well, we're using another function called price close. And automatically behind the scenes, this function is going to pull all the closing prices from the file that you downloaded from my website. Now, if you are using a live connection to a broker, then the same function would pull the prices from there or from other internet sources. You know, Zorro can handle pretty much any kind of data source. Here we are using that file because it's very simple and we wanted the simplest possible code. Okay, so now we have us in the memory of the computer, we have a series of daily closing prices. The next two variables we need are the simple moving averages. One of them is short, the other one is long. And since these are of the same type like close, right, they're going to be the same kind of, you know, vars type of variable. So vars SMA short, right, and vars SMA long. Okay, these are going to be our two moving averages. And of course, these are series, so we are going to define them as such using the same function. But this time we're not going to using the price close function, but another built-in function of Zorro called simple moving average, SMA, right, unsurprisingly. And this function takes as argument, the first argument is the price series, which is close, right, and the length, the window, right, how many days, right, and we said that the short one is 50 days. The exact same thing, right, for the longer moving average, the slow one, if you will, right? It's a series, of course. Simple moving average, the same function. Close, the same series that we're using, the daily closing prices, but this time we're gonna use a 200 days formation period. Don't forget the semicolon at the end, otherwise you will get an error when you try to run this. Okay, so we have a price series, we have two moving averages, and now we want to see when a crossover happened, right? And for that, of course, we have an if clause here. So if this, then you know, enter long. This is another built-in function of Zorro, right? So if the other, right, then enter short. This and the other being, of course, a crossover or a cross under. Unsurprisingly, the functions are called crossover and cross under. Okay, so if the short moving average or the short fast moving average crosses over the long one, then we enter a long position. If a cross under occurs, then we enter a short position. Okay, so who crosses what? Well, simple moving average short right? That's the first argument of the crossover function. The second argument is, of course, the other variable, the other array we just created, the SMA long. All right. So basically, what this means is when the short moving average crosses over the long moving average, enter a long position. The same thing here, SMA short. Horrible typing, I'm sorry. SMA long, enter short. And that's pretty much it. So we have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines of code, maybe 8 or 9, right? With the but again, it's just a few lines of code. We are telling Zorro that the bar period, the length of the bar period is 1 day. We define a series of daily closing prices. We calculate, use simple moving averages, one short, one long, and then we check if a crossover occurs. Then enter a long position. And by the way, Zorro automatically closes any short positions you may have at the time. And if we get a cross under, then we exit any long positions we may have and enter a short position. That's it, guys. That's it. It's as simple as this. Now, of course, if you've never been exposed to programming before, then this may look like, Greek or Chinese. But if you've been exposed to programming, I'm sure that you can get the gist of this rather quickly. If you're a programmer, Zorro has a great manual that you can use. If you're not a programmer, then start with this video and keep learning. This is basically the role of this video, to show you how simple it is, and then to help you learn. Further videos may address more complicated topics. Okay, so now that we have this trading strategy, we have the data on our hard drive, right? It is time to save this. Okay, save as, and we are going to call this trade golden cross. Okay, and by default it's going to be a C source file. We're saving this, and now we are going to see what happens when we run it, right? So now that we have it saved, we can open it here. Now it appears in the pop-down menu, trade golden cross, right? We have that strategy. We have the underlying asset, the SPY, right? And now we are going to click the test button. Woo! What just happened here, right? Well, let's click results. So Zorro is even plotting this for us, right? So this is the SPY, our trading period starts 5 years ago. This is the default period. If you don't specify a different one, we could have said the beginning of time, but that would have added another line to the script. We wanted to keep it short. So the simulation starts in 2016. It looks back the needed period of time, in this case is 200 days, right? And then you can see the trades here. So the black line is the price, right? This is the price. The moving averages are not depicted here, but even so, you can see that this is a bad short. This is a short that didn't work. This is a bad long. This is a long trade that didn't work, and this is a long trade that did work, and so on and so forth. So the dots are the entry points and exit points, and the line is green if it's a trade that works, that's profitable, and it's red if it's an unprofitable trade. So what just happened here? Oh my gosh, we just lost 4% a year. So is this a profitable trading strategy? Not on the SPY, or not during this period, right? So, well, it's on Investopedia, and it appears that many people heard about it or are trading it. So, maybe not all is lost here. Well, what can we change, right? Not the strategy itself, but what exactly can we change here to make things better, right? Because obviously this is a strategy that loses money, right? And the Sharpe ratio is negative, which means that it's a terribly risky strategy. Don't try this at home, guys. So, well, we could trade something different than the SPY, right? In the other picture we saw that it did work on Apple, at least during that year. But what I want to show you here is the nice features of Zorro, not so much a great strategy. So here is what Zorro returns. This is what matters most: the annual return and the Sharpe ratio, right? Spend some time, look at these things, try to figure them out. But the next question that we're trying to answer here is, okay, is there anything we can do about this strategy to make it better? And the only two things that we can look at are these two formation periods here, right? The 50 and the 200, right? Those two formation periods are parameters. Basically, you can change them, right? So can we find better values for these two parameters? Well, let's try it random. I don't know, 100 and 500. I don't know. I'm just making this up. So let's try it again, right? So let's save it, and then let's run it again. Test. Oh, we're getting an error message here about the look back period. And actually, it wasn't an error message. I'm sorry, but here is the result. We're getting no trades. So there are no trades here. That's why I thought it was an error. With those two values, right, 100 and 500, we're getting no trades. There are no crossovers with those two values. So the question then becomes, is there an optimal pair of values here that will make this strategy profitable, right, or the most profitable, or with the lowest risk, or whatever criteria for goodness you choose? Well, let me show you how easy that is to do in Zorro. So first we need to define two variables to hold those values, right? So these are not gonna be series anymore. They're just gonna be integers, right? So we're going to use the var type of Zorro for that. And we're going to define a variable called SMA short, and another one called SMA long, right? And we are going to substitute these values here: SMA short and SMA long. All right. And the reason for doing this will make sense in a second. So, beware of these typos, they're horrible. Alright, so basically we have defined and substituted two variables here for the two values. Let's add the word period here just for clarity. Okay, SMA short period and SMA long period. Alright, and now how do we tell Zorro that we want to try different values, right? That we would like to find the best values that that fit our model to maximize profit, minimize risk, blah blah blah, right? So how do we do that? Well, Zorro has a built-in function for that. As you probably guessed by now, Zorro has a function for anything you can think of. Okay, so, and that function is called optimize. Like that. As simple as that. Optimize. But optimize what, right? So what exactly do we want to optimize here? Well, we want to optimize the values. We want to search two intervals for the best possible values. So for the short moving average, our interval is going to be from 1 to 50. So we want to try every single value between 1 and 50, starting with the value 25. that's there. Zorro is going to try all the values, but it's going to start at 25. That's important, and it's a bit tricky, but we won't get into that right now. So we're just going to say, starting with 25, go up to 50, go down to 1, whatever Zorro, whatever you do, give me the best value here, and go in steps of 1. Okay, go in steps of 1. So try, 25, 26, 27, blah blah blah, up to 50, and 24, 23, 22, down to 1. And we're gonna do the exact same thing down here, right? We're gonna start at 100, and then we're gonna go down to 51, which is one more than the end of the other interval, 50, right? And we're gonna go up to 200, and again in steps of 1. Now this step of 1 here is not the best idea, but again, this is another conversation. But it's as simple as this, guys. So we just added 2 lines of code, and now we have a program that's gonna search for the optimal pair of value given 2 intervals, 1 to 50 and 51 to 200. Just 2 lines of code. As you can see, there aren't even loops here, right? This optimize function, this internal function of Zorro, does everything for us. Honestly, I believe this is amazing. I mean, if I think, how much programming this involves, how many lines of code, if you wanted to do this from scratch in C, blah, 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 I've done that. I did. And it's not faster when you do it yourself in any way, shape, or form. So anyway, but let's save this now, and then let's see what happens when we run it, right? So I'm hitting the test button, and that was stupid. I'm sorry for doing that. Basically, what we need to hit here is this button called train, because training this model will basically optimize for those values, and once the training is done, we can test. Okay, so I'm gonna hit train now. Okay, now the training is done. Like you've seen, it only took a few seconds. Let me do it again. Train, bam, it's done, right? So from 2015 to 2020, train, bam, it's done, right? It's a second, right? It's extremely fast, right? And now let's hit test and see what we get. Oh, we're getting a loss again. This is surprising, but not that surprising. Result isn't surprising, is that a mistake, actually 2 mistakes have creeped in here. The first, we are optimizing the parameters, but we're not telling Zorro to remember them. How silly of me. Okay, so yes, we do have these optimize functions in here, but we need to start by telling Zorro that we are going to optimize parameters. So this is a flag that Zorro needs in order to store these values. And then because we are doing something a bit more complicated than before, right, we need to add another variable here, an internal variable of Zorro called the lookback. Right, and this is the formation, the period the longest period that is needed for the formation of the parameters, right? So since our simple moving average, the slow one, the long one, goes up to 200, and we are optimizing, we need to tell Zorro that. In the first version of this script, because things were extremely simple, Zorro was able to pick the lookback period by itself on his own, but here we need to specify that. Okay, so what we added here was this set parameters flag, which tells Zorro that we are optimizing and it should remember the best parameters, and the lookback period, which is an internal Zorro variable that tells Zorro to, before starting the simulation, to look back for 200 days. Okay, so we're going to save this and run it again. Again, we hit the train button first, and we see how the optimization is happening. It's a little longer than before. But it's still just a few seconds, right? And now Zorro is telling us that the parameters are stored in trade golden cross _ spi.par file, if you are curious about the content. And now let's test, right? Oh, now it's better, right? So if we hit the results button, we see here that we're getting a decent number of good trades, right? These green lines are successful trades. This is a good long, this is a good short, another good long, another good long, another good short. So with the optimized set of parameters, we're not getting as many bad trades. Still, we're still getting a few. That's the nature of the beast, right? No trend following system like this is always gonna win them all. But we are making a little more money, right? So we are getting a 5% a year, right? Let's go down here. Okay, so we are getting a 5% annual return. The Sharpe ratio is now positive, although it's small, right? It's 0.35. We would like to see much better than that, but it's no longer negative, right? So we are doing obviously better than the last time, right? Now, should you try this at home? No, for reasons that are way more complicated than I can cover in this video. But I wanted to show to you how easy it was to implement a strategy in Zorro and optimize it in arguably the stupidest way possible. This exhaustive search in the parameter space is not really the way to go. And now just to show you how easy it is to accomplish complicated things in Zorro, let me tell you what you should do, how you should optimize this strategy. The procedure is called Walkforward Optimization. That isn't the end-all, cover-all solution either, but it's much better than what we just did here, the exhaustive search of the parameter space. Basically, when you do what we just did here, you are doing something called overfitting, and that is not good. But I don't want to go into details in this video. So basically, what we would like to do is to take the period that we are looking at and divide it into a number of sub periods, and then train and test our model into those periods. Those of you who have been exposed to machine learning know that we are talking about training sets and test sets for our historical price data. And crazy enough, in order to do that, we just need to add one line of code to Zorro. There is an internal Zorro variable called num WFO cycles, right? Number of walk forward optimization cycles, right? So basically this tells Zorro in how many periods, training, testing periods, should be our historical price series, closing price series be divided, right? This is a more complicated conversation. Please go on the website. There is a clearer explanation there, or you can just Google walk forward optimization. So, but just by adding this variable here, and I'm gonna make it 35, right? Just out of the hat. I have no justification for this number. I just picked it out of thin air, but you can play with the value and see what happens. But basically, now we told Zorro to divide the whole period into 35 subperiods and train and test on each one of them. Now, if this strategy has any merit, this should improve our results. Maybe not with a lot, but if it doesn't improve them, then maybe we should rethink not the parameters, but the assets, or maybe that strategy itself, it depends. Anyway, let me save this, and now I'm going to train it again. And as you can see, this time it's not that fast anymore, in the sense that it's going to take a few minutes. Not a lot of time. I can tell you from experience that if you ran this in Python, or if you ran this in Thinkorswim, or I don't know, whatever your favorite platform is, this can take an hour or two. It really depends, but it is much slower, right? So you can see here walk number, how many walks. Each walk is one subset. So basically this is going to go up to 35, and these are the parameters: first parameter, second parameter, first parameter, second parameter. They're being optimized, and then Zorro will automatically select at the end the correct values and save them for you. I think this is really as fast as it gets. I think the only time that's being wasted here by Zorro is the display of these values, because if this whole thing were silent, if Zorro wouldn't print out every single line here with the results, then it probably save a few processor cycles. But anyway, it is extremely fast. I don't think it really gets faster than that unless you use GPUs or other parallelism, methodologies. There is talk that Zorro may be running in future versions on GPUs, and even in this current version you can run it on multiple cores if your machine has a few cores to spare. But that's the paid version. The free version doesn't do that. Anyway, the total time, as you can see, is 1 minute and 30 seconds. Okay, I think that's impressive. So let's test this now. Oh, look, we improved a little bit, right? So if we look at the equity curve, this is the first thing that jumps to my eye, right? The equity curve looks much better, right? There are smaller drawdown periods, right? We're in general, above the water all the time. We're losing money every now and then. There are a few bad trades, but that's always the case, right? Especially when the market does this, right? I mean, I think we have improved, right? So we are a little more profitable. It's 5.3% versus 5, and the Sharpe ratio is 3.6 versus 3.5. So we're doing a little better. Now, should you try this at home? No. Would I trade this live? No. You can use a demo account, right? You see here, Zorro, it's allowing you to use a demo account if you have one, right? So you can get a demo account and play with, but I wouldn't trade this with real money. And the purpose of this video was not to teach you how to trade a strategy with real money and how this is just a very basic introductory video, in which I wanted to show you how easy it is to program a strategy in Zorro. By the way, I did this myself. I implemented something like this from scratch using the C programming language, in which I programmed all these functions myself. The optimize function, the crossovers and cross-unders and all these things. And I didn't have to program the moving averages. There are libraries in C for the technical indicators. But what I can tell you is that I spent about a week doing it. Just for this one strategy, I spent about a week programming. I did it for fun. I didn't believe it's going to work better than Zorro, but I did it for fun. It was a nice project. I had the time, and but it was a lot of effort, a lot of bugs mistakes that I introduced there, and it wasn't faster. I mean, really, it wasn't faster than Zorro, because this is C. So Anyway, please feel free to go to www.algorithmictrading.ml and read a little more details, and download, of course, those files if you want to play with them. And happy trading! Don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends, or subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was as fun for you to watch as it was for me to do. All right, happy trading.